Hey there, everybody. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day because today is Friday, and Friday is the best day of the week. And today, on Friday, I want to have a conversation surrounding just the general state of Nintendo, because Nintendo, of course, finds himself in a very unique position right now, which is usually the case whenever I have like a sort of touch base chat about what's happening with Nintendo or gaming in general. And that's really no different today. I think that, we're now past the halfway point of the year. We've had it confirmed that the Switch 2 is going to be revealed sometime in the near future. We finally had a very big and very popular Nintendo Direct that had a couple of big reveals, really one big reveal. The most important thing in all of video games right now, which is the reveal of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. But we also saw a brand new Zelda game revealed that's releasing in just under 2 months. We got the confirmation and reveal of a brand new Mario and Luigi game for the Switch, and a couple of other things that I'm sure a lot of folks are interested in. So, we're understanding Nintendo's 2024 and the Switch's 2024. Things have come into focus. We now have a tiny glimpse into the future with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which represents so many things. The 7-year wait, the reboot of that game, just the continuation of the Metroid franchise and the Metroid Prime series specifically, a glimpse into a 2025 release from Nintendo in any way, shape, or form, and even possibly the look at a game that might also be releasing on the Switch 2. So there's a lot of huge things surrounding Metroid Prime 4 specifically. But again, we're just talking about Nintendo and the fact that we're in this position where even though there's a couple of big games, Mario and Luigi and Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and people keep reminding me about the Mario Party game. I don't follow Mario Party or play or care about it, but it is a game that sells very well that is also releasing this year. So we have those 3 big first-party games still to come, but in general, it also feels like the overall excitement and hype and even interest in Nintendo is slowing as we all wait for the reveal of the Switch 2. And there's nothing even wrong with that. That is not a complaint, nor is it a negative thing that you could lobby towards Nintendo. That's not what I'm trying to say. But with that slowing down nature of everything around Nintendo, despite a few exciting games coming up, I think we've also seen, and this is a conversation that's actually popped up this past week, on Twitter and on YouTube, the fact that Nintendo kind of being slow right now, and even more than Nintendo, maybe I should reframe it as less that Nintendo is slowing down, and more that, like I already said, interest and hype around Nintendo has slowed down, that it's also kind of impacting people who run Nintendo-focused YouTube channels. And what does that mean for the state of things in general? And as both a Nintendo fan and someone who has a Nintendo-focused YouTube channel, I obviously have thoughts on all of this. So I do want to drive home the point one more time before I jump into the rest of this conversation that, again, for anyone who's going to say, what are you talking about? Nintendo's not slowing down. There's these big games coming out soon. Yes, I agree. I've already talked about them, and I'll talk about them again here. For me, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is the only game right now by Nintendo for the Switch in 2024 that I am very excited to buy and to play. I've talked about it a few times. My last video was about Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I think it looks great. I think it's going to be great. And it's going to sell very well, and yes, there's going to be that Zelda Switch Lite edition that's going to release. It'll probably sell, not bad for itself, given the time in the Switch's life that it's releasing. So Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, pretty big game coming out pretty soon. Can't wait for it. It's going to sell well. Mario and Luigi, it's not a game I'm personally going to play or into because I don't really care for RPGs and the Mario RPGs. I know they're really good, so this is not me saying that it's bad. And I think it's also going to be very successful, and a lot of people are going to buy it. But it's not a game I'm going to play. However, it is a pretty high-profile game, very high-profile game that is releasing soon. From what I've seen from people who like the Mario RPG genre and also like Mario and Luigi, is that a lot of people don't really feel very excited about it because they don't like the graphics. And ironically, even though it's not a series I'm into and will play, I actually disagree with that. I think one of the few things I like about what I've seen is the graphics. Now, the world and all of that doesn't really look very graphically impressive or like, powerful or anything. However, I still kind of like this cel-shaded Mario world approach. It is way cooler seeing it than I ever would have thought it would have been if I had just heard the idea or read it on paper. Like cel-shaded Mario, I would have been like, nah, that's not for me. That doesn't look cool. But I love the way Mario and Luigi, specifically those characters, look in the cel-shaded graphics for Mario and Luigi Brotherhood. I think it looks very cool. I like the graphics. Sadly, it's the gameplay that's going to keep me from playing it because I'm just not really into that kind of gameplay. But it's another big game coming out this year, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to buy and love it. And then, of course, there's the Mario Party game. Man, I don't remember anything about it. I don't remember its title. I don't know what's going on. Mario Party to me was fun when the first two games came out on the Nintendo 64. I tried the one that came out on the Wii because everything on the Wii was very exciting at the time. Other than that, I just don't care. But Mario Party is a popular series and it sells very well. I think, is this the third Mario Party game on the Switch? You know, you can tell I don't follow the franchise because I don't know the answer to that. I want to say it's the third one, second or third. And to my knowledge, the prior one sold very, very well. And so I think there's no reason to expect that this one won't do the same. So between Zelda, Mario and Luigi, and Mario Party, you got three pretty exciting games that I think all will sell quite well. Several million copies each, there is no doubt in my mind. So what is arguably the most important thing, which is the video games themselves, those are looking good. Nintendo's got video games that are exciting, and they're all new entries, by the way. These three games I just listed are some of the few non-re-release, remaster, remake games Nintendo is making in 2024. So they're doing the most important thing correct in the back half of the year. They got three big first-party games that are new entries, all very exciting. However, the larger conversation about Nintendo slowing down, and like I said, even how YouTubers and YouTube channels are kind of feeling the impact and the pinch of that, that's still a real discussion as well. Because when we're talking about gauging interest and hype and excitement around a company, around a video game platform, around games and franchises, or just the industry at large, you're talking about a few things. And when you look specifically at Nintendo, Nintendo has relied, I would say, and this goes back to the Wii U days. Look, I started YouTube in 2013, so the Wii U was the console on the market. I started right before even the PS4 and Xbox One launched. That was like my second or third video was covering the launches of the PS4 and the Xbox One. That's how long I've been doing this. And so when we look at Nintendo, I think going back to the Wii U days and definitely in the Switch days, I think that Nintendo is the company, more so than anyone else in the industry, that the hype and the interest and the YouTube online conversation relies so heavily on leaks and rumors and promises of the future, possibilities of new entries, and new hardware revisions. Everyone kept talking about the Switch Pro for a while. I certainly made a handful of videos about it back in the day as well. Whether or not I believed it or not at the time, I don't even remember. I went up and down, and I was believing in next gen more than Switch Pro pretty soon into that conversation. But either way, you know, talking about leaks of this, rumors of that, Switch Pro this, next gen Switch 2 that, those kinds of things are more the conversation that Nintendo and the online conversation around Nintendo has relied on, more so than Sony, Xbox, or any other video game franchise. And in 2024, I think in the 7.5 years the Switch has been on the market, I'd be curious if you guys agree with this or maybe you disagree with it. But as somebody who's in this space, I think in 2024, we have seen that excitement and that conversation slow to a crawl and almost entirely disappear. Now, you could argue that that's maybe a good thing because there is a frustrating component to always leaks and always rumors and people trusting this person and not trusting that person. A lot of drama comes out of it. A lot of people get sick of conversations about leaks and rumors because they're not real yet. They're just a leak or just a rumor. And I think that it's a very nuanced conversation. And, you know, all of these things that we're talking about are kind of true. And so I definitely understand that. But this year, you know, that conversation that people rely on has kind of disappeared. And I think it's the result of two things. One is the fact that Nintendo now has confirmed that they're going to tell us about the Switch 2 sometime soon. So suddenly the need for leaks and rumors about Switch 2, it's not totally disappeared. And I know that there's something floating around out there right now that I don't know if we can believe, but it's kind of a conversation. But Nintendo confirming anything about the Switch 2 and giving us a timeline to expect it by default reduces a lot of the people out there yapping about leak this and rumor that, because now it's real. Nintendo's told us about it. The other thing is something that I don't pay too much attention to and I don't really care about, but there's been a handful of people online who have made a bit of a name for themselves, you know, keeping themselves shrouded in mystery, but they become known as like leakers and people who guess things or leak things correctly. You know, the most obvious one in the past year has been Pioro. There's been those other people like Zippo and that Samus Hunter person that I never thought was a real person, by the way. And basically that was all confirmed as far as I know. And, you know, I can't pretend like in years past I haven't made one or two videos covering a story from these folks. I certainly have. But I think for those of you who've been following my channel for a long time, you know my content. You can track the conversations I've had. I've never really relied specifically on people too much. Jeff Grubb, obviously, covered a couple times. Nate the Hate, who I have podcasted with and chatted with before in the past, really good guy. Some of his stuff. But these other people that hide behind like anime avatars and whatnot and video game character avatars, I don't know enough about them to say one way or another, but like, I don't know. That has never been interesting to me. And this past 6 or so months, all of those people have basically been wiped off the grid. Whether by choice, whether by choice or if they've been forced off, they've been wiped off the grid, right? So there's no more Pioro. There's no more Silux Hunter, I think was the other one. You know, they're just gone. For whatever reason, Nintendo went after them. They got exposed. They decided to leave. They got too many things wrong. And so this is all to say, between Nintendo confirming through their own messaging that they will give us the Switch 2 soon, and all of these people that kept this hype and rumor and leak cycle going being wiped off the grid, and, you know, slowing sales and less brand new games for, you know, by and large, all of these things have kind of put Nintendo in a bit of like a limbic status, right? They're just kind of like coasting through the rest of 2024. Maybe we get the Switch 2 reveal before the year is over. I do think that's going to happen. But in general, they've revealed Metroid Prime 4. That's the biggest and most important thing they needed to do. They have a top-down 2D Zelda game coming out, and then, you know, a Mario spin-off, 2 Mario spin-off games with Mario and Luigi and Mario Party coming out, and that's it. And so everything seems to have slowed down in terms of the general conversation, and now we're just waiting for when we finally see the Switch 2 or when we get a new trailer for Metroid Prime 4. Now, I also alluded to this conversation that's been going around this past week around how Nintendo YouTube has kind of been affected, or some folks are kind of feeling the pinch from what I really just know is a slowing and lack of interest in Nintendo Online. And I think that, you know, people seeking out information or videos or opinions or conversations or even like official updates or even leaks and rumors, whatever few are still out there around Nintendo, people are not as interested in that anymore, and there's less to talk about. So it's literally two factors. Less to talk about, less interest from the viewer. You put those things together and it's a recipe for just, you know, less views on your YouTube videos. And so, you know, some people who I know pretty well, for either, you know, I know them from like kind of knowing them to like knowing them pretty well. They've all talked about this or discussed this in the past week. RGT85 made a video about it. I know him pretty well. Nintendo Prime made a video about it. I know him fairly well. Been on his podcast once. He's a good guy. Wood from Beat 'em Ups talked about it. You know, these kind of three folks have discussed this in this past week, that revenue is down, views are down, interest in gaming and Nintendo stuff is just down across the board. And I've seen it, not even so much on my channel, but I've just seen it when looking at what is being talked about out there. Nintendo doesn't have a lot going on to keep people really engaged and interested right now. And again, not a complaint, not a bad thing. I'm not saying anything negative here. I just think that is just the truth of the matter. And so they've talked about how things have been slowing down and revenue's down because there are people who rely on revenue from their YouTube channel. I do not, but these are examples of folks who do, and there are plenty others who do as well. And then another pretty notable thing is that Game Explain, which is the longest running and largest Nintendo-focused YouTube channel on the internet, and definitely was an inspiration to me back in 2013 and 2014 when I decided I would try this YouTube thing. They have now decided to let go of their full-time staff and reduce to just the one person, Andre, who I do know fairly well. As well. He's a really good guy. Controversies aside, I don't care about that stuff. And so they've let go of their full-time staff, which includes a very good friend of mine, Joey Ferris, who, by the way, has gone back to his own personal channel, and you should definitely check it out. He's a great guy, a good friend of mine. And so that's another example where Game Explain confirmed that for like 2 years, views and revenue has been really significantly down. And at this point, they had no choice anymore but to just change their operation, change the channel, drop the full-time staff. No one's fault if views and revenue are down. I mean, you could say adapt this way or adapt that way. Other than that, if revenue's down, you can't support to pay employees. And so that channel has to go through a bit of a restructure. And it's sad to see, but it adds into this conversation of slowing interest in Nintendo stuff right now. I do think it's a calm before the storm. I think we're in a lull that will change in the future, but right now, if things are down, you have to change what you're doing on your YouTube channel. And so one of the last things I just want to touch on here is, my general vibe in all of this and role in all this as somebody who does run a Nintendo-focused YouTube channel. And it's, I can only say that I feel fortunate, I guess, when you look at the larger YouTube landscape, because I think when you look at YouTube, and even people who do Twitch, just content creation in general. And if you focus on gaming content creation, Nintendo content creation, for the most part, everyone is trying to make money. They're trying to make a lot of money, and they want it to be their full-time job. And there's nothing wrong with that. I have no issues with that. I've never been one of those people that's like, get a real job. Don't do this, blah, blah, blah. But I feel fortunate because I think I'm one of probably the 1% of people who runs a YouTube channel in the gaming and Nintendo space who doesn't care about doing this for a living. I don't do it for the money. I am fortunate in that my job, my career treats me very well. I can support myself and my wife very comfortably, and we're just in a good spot. And so within the first 3 years of running a YouTube channel, so we're going back to probably still the Wii U days, maybe at the very beginning of the Switch days, I just let go of the concept of, I want to do YouTube for a living and make this my full-time job. I just kind of stopped caring about that. So for at least 6-7 years or so, maybe even 8, I've been doing YouTube for over a decade. For probably around 7 years, I've really just been doing this the whole time for fun. I do make money on it. I get a couple $100 every month, and it's fine. It's just extra money. No big deal. Doesn't really impact me. But again, I'm fortunate. And so I am somebody who, it's not really a big deal if things slow down and impacts my YouTube channel. I will also say I think I'm fortunate for being a smaller channel with only 22,000 subscribers. I still get good views on my videos and support from you guys, which I appreciate. Thank you for that. I get good views and support for the size of my channel. Anywhere from probably 4 to 5, 6, 7,000 views per video, depending on the time and the topic. That's good for a channel with 22,000 subscribers. But other channels who are much larger, their kind of view to subscriber ratio is struggling right now, especially in the Nintendo space, because things seem slower. And again, that's why people like RGT and Nintendo Prime and Beat 'em Ups and Game Explain have talked about this and are trying to adjust and make changes and are not so sure about what's going to happen. I should say, to Sean's credit on RGT, he actually isn't really maybe seeing the same impact. He's a little bit more diversified. He's not reliant as much on Nintendo. So I don't want to put him in that same camp necessarily. But I know for other Nintendo-focused channels, they're the ones seeing the struggle because, as this video is about, it's about Nintendo and interest in Nintendo being slow right now. And so I just feel lucky that I can just have my YouTube channel, talk to you guys, and I can talk about Metroid Prime 4 till I'm blue in the face. I can talk about anything else that's interesting to me. And my worst performing video is going to be 3,000 views, and my best performing videos are 8, 9, 10,000, and on average. And that's great for 22,000 subscribers. And so I feel very, very lucky. And again, since I don't do it for a living and I don't need to get any money from it, it doesn't really impact me whether it's successful or not. I just like doing this, and I like having a reason to talk about Metroid. So I'm just waiting for Metroid Prime 4 trailer and information and Switch 2 stuff. That's all I really care about. And so to wrap this up, I know this is just kind of a rambly sort of it's like a fireside chat kind of video, right? No plan, just kind of bullshitting. I think that the last point I want to leave everyone with is I do think, and I said this a minute ago, I think we're just in a lull, and I think it's the calm before the storm. Or maybe you would say we're in the eye of the storm. Whatever it is. Because I think that the last year things have just slowed down. Maybe like after Zelda. I think after Tears of the Kingdom last year, everything slowed down. Nintendo's relied mostly on remakes and remasters and re-releases of old games. A couple of small B-tier spin-off new entries in games coming out. And now they've confirmed the Switch 2. So now we're all just waiting for Switch 2. And we're waiting for more Metroid Prime 4 information. That's the two new things from Nintendo that everyone is waiting on. And when we get the Switch 2 information, almost definitely other video games will come along with that. A new Mario game, a new IP, a new Splatoon game, more Metroid Prime 4 information, like I said. Maybe a hint at the next big Zelda that's extremely vague. Whatever other things. F-Zero is returning. Just, other new games will come along with the reveal of the Switch 2 as well. So we need these two things, Metroid Prime 4 and Switch 2, to kind of change the fate of Nintendo in terms of people being interested in Nintendo and for YouTube channels that are focused on covering Nintendo. And so I'm willing to bet that by the end of 2024, hopefully things will change and the tide will have shifted. And I hope everyone who has a YouTube channel that relies on it for money and for income, revenue, to take care of themselves, to take care of their families, to support their channel, everyone involved, I hope it gets better for their sake. Again, doesn't impact me, but for everyone who does it for a living, I just want it to get better. But I think that the main reason I wanted to talk about any of this as I kind of end this video here is just that it's more about the status of Nintendo than even the YouTube stuff. I know the back half of this conversation I focused on the YouTube side of things, but it's Nintendo. Like, things are just slower. And by slow, I still mean a new Zelda game is coming out soon. And there's, 2 Mario spin-offs also coming out soon. So they're releasing some games. And Zelda is crazy exciting to me. But like I said, we're waiting for Switch 2. We're waiting for Metroid Prime 4. And, sales are slower. Switch, Nintendo interest, it's all slower. We got to wait. By the end of the year, going into the beginning of next year, things are going to pick up like crazy. And any YouTube channels that might be feeling a pinch, I think, are also going to see an uptick too. And everyone will probably be okay in the end. That's what I think. That's what I hope. These are my long-winded thoughts. And for now, that's about it.